Hello, happy Sunday.
From the other room. It was funny.
I'm upstairs, yeah.
I know we got a call the other day from our cousin from over in Boston, and he was on the phone and he said, "Air, everybody sort of wants to know why do you and Joe, why are you in split screens?" I thought it was funny because Joe's answer to this was, "Because I want the screen time too."
Of course, of course. It was a good question, Jim. It was a good question. Yeah, I can't sacrifice my screen time was the answer. Yeah.
But also logistically, there's a lot that we're able to do from behind the scenes where we need two different screens. So that's your main answer, Dustin, but still a good one. One thing we just wanted to do, and while we know we've had some people tell us, we don't really know how to get on, or it takes a little bit. So definitely, obviously, if you're listening to this, you already have, but we wanted to give some time that you make sure you refresh your page. If you are on our Choice Physical Therapy page, to make sure you can. If you are here, just shoot us a comment like, "Hello, everybody," or so we know when people are here, and then we will get started. But Joe, why don't you tell me, I know you do your 5-minute journal every day, as many days as you can of the week. Give me an idea of what was the best thing that happened to you in this week or this past weekend?
I'm going to go with a really important one. This is the best time of year to be a Buffalo Bills fan, and I think we crushed it in the draft. I'm excited about especially our first couple picks, and yeah, so overall, great weekend. We got a lot done around the house, but for me, the Bills haven't lost a game this year. Tom Brady's not in the AFC East. I am super excited about this football season. How about you, Air?
I've heard that before, but that's okay. Hi, Jackie. Thank you for coming. Best thing for me was getting the motivation to sort of get everything out of the garage. We swept everything for the past 2 years, all of the dirt and dust and everything that was that's been weighing on my shoulders. Why? I don't know, but it has been. So after the sweeping, shoveling, and then pressure washing, the kids were in bathing suits on Saturday. It was absolutely gorgeous. And we were able to totally clean out the garage. And I feel so much better already. It was a good week just having to complete that.
It was good. Thanks for getting the ball rolling. I was ready to come home on Saturday and just kind of kick around, and yeah, I feel accomplished. So
I'm glad we did it. Just want to say hi, Sherry. Hi, Kristen. Thank you guys for joining us. So we are trying to take a little poll. Leave in the comments what you think is the best time. We've done a 9 p.m. This is now an 8 p.m. I know we did dinner last time, dinner time around 5. We're trying to stick to when potentially kids are in bed. Luckily, ours got in bed tonight about 7:30. So if this time works well, give us a thumbs up or like, or if you think the later 9 o'clock is a little bit better because you've really gotten most things down. We're just really trying to hear some feedback from everybody before we get started. And also topics. We have a few other great things lined up, but we've been talking to all of our patients and family members, and they tell us that they're interested in hearing some other things. So feel free to let us know some topics that you're interested in, and we will certainly get some local expertise, if we can, to help our conversation and our mind share here. But let's get started. Seems like we've got some people on now. We just wanted to reintroduce ourselves. If you haven't known, or if you're a new viewer, we realized that after last week's visit, not everybody knew who we were. It's Aaron and Joe, the owners of Choice Physical Therapy. We are super proud to be here and so glad that after 3 episodes, we have had over 5,000 views of our CPTv. It's truly humbling. We are beyond thrilled that we're able to get this content to our community, and it's just really awesome.
yeah, I mean, we had talked about this in episode 1. We talked about this kind of being an idea for a while, and you never know how things are going to go. But it's been, like you said, truly humbling and great to be able to have the support. We always feel so supported with everything that goes on at Choice, but this is a completely different platform. This is a completely different thing than we've been used to in the last 5 years. And it's really, really cool to see all the interaction and get some really good feedback. So thank you, everybody.
All right. And before we get into the meat and potatoes tonight, we just want to give a little update on what happened after our our session last week with Dominic Promoto from Feed Albany. As you know, for Choice Physical Therapy, we always do a Choose to Give Back campaign. And because of all of the likes and shares and loves on both our YouTube page and on the video that we had, we were able to donate $300 to Feed Albany COVID-19 relief. And that, if any of you know me and my personal why, to be able to just contribute to something so local, so current, so necessary at the current times, we are just so happy and proud that we could contribute to such an awesome organization that's going on. So thank you for just sharing and liking the content that we're giving, because then we're able to give back for that. And now I wanted to sort of introduce Joe. We recently have been doing our own personal whys and our company whys. And one thing that really makes Joe tick is this leadership and motivation. And so coming up with a topic was pretty easy for him. So Joe, I'll have you just sort of jump right in it.
Yeah, so this is something that I thought was really applicable and something I've done a lot of research on and we've talked a lot about at Choice. And it comes down to motivation, I think is the biggest topic. And really what spurred it off was there's a bunch of COVID memes going around, and one of them popped up and it had so it was what I imagine myself during COVID-19. And it was this guy, like army soldier, kind of all ready to go. And then the next part of the picture was like 8 weeks into COVID-19. And it was a guy grocery shopping in his bathrobe, like overgrown, everything. And I think it made me look and say, we want to come out of this stronger. We always want to look at how we can improve, but it's really hard to stay motivated and to stay set on the goals we put forth. And one of the things we look at is how we set these goals. What goals do I choose? What do I try to tackle? Episode 1, we talked a lot about atomic habits and just changing one little thing and how that can make a huge difference in our day and our lives. How do we choose which thing? And then when life gets busy, when things get a little crazy, how do I make sure that I stay on track? How do I make sure that I stay motivated? Full disclosure, I have not taken a math class since high school, believe it or not. So there was some math and physics, but never taken a math class since high school. I'm going to pull this up. If you saw some of the announcements to this episode, y equals x to the n power. All right. So hopefully you can see that. What we end up doing a lot when we look at our goals, we choose, hey, I want to be fit. I want to have six-pack abs. I want to complete a marathon. I want to get a job. I want to be happier. What we're looking at is we try to find role models that have achieved what we set out to achieve, what we think we want to achieve. And then we look at what that person, that organization, that team is doing. Thinking, okay, if I just do what they're doing, if I just do that, I should be able to get there. This a lot of times comes back to almost the overnight success phenomenon, where the curve starts down here, and there are so many private victories, these 1% better, these little habits, these things that had to happen gradually, consistently over time. Eventually we hit this threshold where it really just starts to take off and things start to click. We hear it all the time with bands, right? So music, whether it's a pop singer, whether it's a band, and you talk to them, it's like, geez, like, where did you guys come from? That's an overnight success.
Joe.
Yep.
Sorry, I think your audio is muffled during, and maybe take those off. Sorry, I just asked everybody, and it was muffled on my end. Can you maybe your earphones off?
How's that?
Better.
Better?
Better now. I'm not sure what happened. Sorry, we could hear you, but it was a little muffled.
Okay, perfect. You want me to go back?
Maybe just hit on the top touch points with the graph.
So if you envision that curve, there's a lot of private victories that have to occur early on and consistently for a really long period of time before we build up enough momentum to hit that threshold where things really start to take off. Usually when we're setting our goals, we look at that end point. We look at that role model. We look at that person, individual, team, and we try to say, what are they doing? They seem so successful. They seem like they have what I'm shooting for. I'm just going to try to copy what they're doing now. But really what they're doing now, what we should be doing is start back to where they started. And all of those private victories, all of those things, again, it takes a lot of time and a lot of consistency to build that up to hit that threshold. So how do we stay motivated during that time when we have to have all of these private victories, when we haven't hit that threshold where it really swings the way we want it to go? We see this all the time. The most common example is the workout routine, the fitness routine at the start of the year, and the enrollment in gym memberships. And then statistically, that seems to dip significantly around February, mid-February. So how do we keep the momentum? How do we keep the motivation during that time so that it swings up? And that's really the best explanation I have for y equals x to the nth. I'm sure for all the math instructors out there, there is actually a real version of that, but that's essentially that. How's that sound, Air? What do you?
Yeah, no, that's good. And I think that one thing was we were talking about this. If anybody knows Rachel Hollis, if you do, let me know in the comments. She's a perfect example who I remember out of nowhere, her book landed on my desk and I read it and I was like, oh my God, she's, so relative to me. I was a new mom and I was like, this lady's brilliant. And then I heard her, I was over in San Diego for a digital marketing summit, and she was one of the guest speakers. And she certainly, not only was she still as inspiring as I thought she was in her books, she made it seem that it was not this overnight success. She put in so much work. And her biggest thing that I sort of took home from that was she was there for every one of her listeners, every single one. And it didn't take until she wrote one really good book after I think it was 4 or 5 what she would call flops. I never read them, but until Girl Wash Your Face came out, obviously catchy title, spoke to the new moms, the people who we constantly judge ourselves and others. And she, when you first see it, you feel like she got to that why really quick. But what she said she did behind the scenes was every late night. And I find that I try to emulate that too, because she sort of nurtured her people for such a long time and then finally wrote a bestseller and now the rest is history. She's got planners and follow-up books, and Girl Stop Apologizing came out after that. So I see some other Sherry and Kendra and Barb. I love it. I mean, she's so relative, but it speaks to the motivation. She didn't stop after her first flop. She kept talking to her people. She kept talking to her girl, right? And so yeah, she's an inspiration for me to stay motivated and know that you have to keep trying to get to your why.
So you are really good at segues.
Oh.
So when we, yes, when we are in that period, right, when Rachel Hollis is writing those books and they're not hitting the bestseller after her first book, and then she writes another book and it's still not there, maybe not what she envisioned. Like she envisioned being on a New York Times bestseller list, and then the third book, and then the fourth. Like, how does she get through that all, right? How do you keep persevering? How do you maintain that motivation? And Erin, you just hit the nail on the head. So we'll go back here to this.
All right, I'll bring it up. Make sure you're not talking into your earphones or.
All right. How's it sound? How's the quality?
Well, let's check. Wait till we get on there.
Can you see my screen? Okay. So this is what people focus on. We focus a lot on the what. What is it? So I am a physical therapist, so I focus on physical therapy. We're a football team, so we focus on football. We are a family, so we focus on the family. So there's a lot of the what. In life, what is in front of us all of the time. If you go a level deeper, now we start to get into the how. We all do it a little bit differently. There are, I don't even know how many physical therapists in the capital region, but my wager is we all go about it differently. We all treat the profession of physical therapy a little bit differently. As families, we know we all do it a little bit different. How do you do it? How do I do it? When do you do bedtime? When do you do dinner? As individuals, I work out, someone else works out. How do you go about it? How do you get your workout in? So not just focusing on the what, but diving a level deeper into the how can be super important. The most important level, arguably, is your why. Why do you do it? Why are you a physical therapist? Why do you do physical therapy that way? Why do you talk to your kids a certain way? Why do you talk to your spouse a certain way? Why do you want to get that marathon completed? The why is the part where it gives you goosebumps. If you go deep enough, it's multiple layers into it to really determine, why do you want this so bad? If you have purpose, then you can really start to develop that momentum and really get through some of those tough points. So this is called the Golden Circle, and it is completely credited to Simon Sinek. I believe he came up with it. He may have gotten it from somebody else, but Start With Why is one of the better books that I have read in the last year. We are talking a lot about that at Choice. We were talking about it before COVID-19 hit, starting to define each of our individual whys. Why do we want to be in the profession? Why do we get up each day to come to work? Why do we love working with our patients? But each aspect of your life, I'm going to come off of the screen share. So each aspect of your life, you can start to determine the why and keep asking yourself. So one of the coolest parts about this was, anybody who knows me or has sat down and had a conversation at length knows that I analyze the heck out of everything, probably sometimes to a fault and a little bit too much. So I am that classic paralysis by over-analysis person. When we first started talking about Choice Physical Therapy, it was at Cheesecake Factory with my dad on a napkin. He was in town on a business trip. It was just Aaron and I. We didn't have, Dominic wasn't born yet. And this was years ago. What really started the ball rolling was once, for me at least, I think Aaron would have been ready to go, the next day after that Cheesecake Factory dinner. What really got it rolling for me was finding out that Dominic was on the way. Because for me, now I had a different role. We'll get into those as a father. And I tried to shoot myself 30 years from now and say, like, what would be the lessons I would want him? What do I want to impart on him? And I knew we always thought we wanted to have a physical therapy company. We thought we wanted to try and have a practice. When Dominic came, it put the pressure on to say, look, why do you want it? Well, for me, it was twofold. It was to deliver great physical therapy, to deliver an environment that gave professionals a place to grow, gave patients a place to get better, but also on a personal side, it was so I could have a real conversation with Dominic later in life and say, look, we went for it. You can go for it. What do you want to do in your life? And kind of give that example, lead by example that way. The why has been a game changer for kind of teasing it out. And why do you want to go to the gym? Why do you want to run that marathon? And whatever that is, that's an individual. There's individual reasons for everybody, but that Start With Why is a super helpful tool for staying motivated and kind of keeping yourself amped up about whatever goals you set.
I think that's important too for there, like you mentioned, and we've talked about this on previous episodes. There are two type of people. I just put in the feed there who are the over analyzers, and you are getting a lot of love, Joe. There's a lot of people out there, more like you, and obviously, oh, look at all those hands. Well, Jackie, Lucy, Tom, Jill, they're all in the same boat as you. But and that's totally okay as long as you have that goal or that mindset or that whole belief system behind what it is you need to do to continue working towards it, where then you're that's still a great, it's a great value to have. I feel like there's other folks out here who me, I'm speaking for the non over analyzers, the more impulsive, the more acts, or acts first, thinks later type of people. And we also have whys, but it just is a different type of motivation and belief system behind it. And I know we're going to go into some of that. So anybody else out there like me who don't break it down, because we can speak to all of that, and you really just act on your thoughts, we can sort of see where that leads us.
And I think it's universal. The why is universal, right? So
Right.
for me, by knowing that Dominic was going to be joining our family and a part of our family, I think that pushed me to think about my why even deeper. And so that kind of got me through my tendency to overanalyze, and it forced me to close down some of my 6,700 spreadsheets that I had going, to figure it out. So yeah, I think the biggest thing is, regardless of what type of personality type you are, going through that exercise, and we've got a little bit more coming up, but getting it down to that deep level of why are you, why are you a teacher? Why do you love teaching? Why do you want to exercise? Why do you want to be a great spouse, be a great friend, be a great colleague and team member? Those types of things take a little bit more time to get to, but the time is well spent because it'll pay dividends, and really help you get through those inevitable tough patches that we all hit, where life isn't easy, and kind of keeps you going through there.
Yeah, thanks. I'm challenging, not that I'm challenging you guys, but it's fun to actually sort of work through this. So I just wrote it down there, to do that golden circle. What is your what? How do you do your what? And why do you do it? We're saying what your what is and how you do it. So for us, we were quickly able to go through what we do. But then the why, that was so interesting to see how everybody sort of has a different reason for what gives them goosebumps about what they're doing in life.
Yeah, yeah, and it's really applicable to all. You can run that for every scenario, in your life, or every role that you have in your life, which is really really cool. It's a neat tool. All right, so now we've got the big question, right? When we're motivated, when we're talking about our why, a lot of us, rightfully so, we keep other people's um, interests above our own, right? A lot of us are very generous with our time. We care about others. We care how they think. We care about them. And so a lot of us tend to put other people's needs above ourselves. One of the really interesting things, about that, so it goes to the last airplane flight you've been on, right? And they're going through everything. They're breathe through the thing, bring the mask down, and they tell you, in case of an emergency, please put your own oxygen mask on before you help anybody else, right? And everybody instinctively says, there's another one I was reading, maybe it was an article or a book, and they said, as a parent, what is the most important relationship that you have? And when you're a parent, it's tough to think, you're in it for your kids, and you are focused about your kids. You want your kids to be happy and this and that. This article argues the most important relationship you have as a parent is with that significant other, if you are lucky enough to have that significant other there. And that made me stop and think, because now it's true. It seems a little bit selfish to put ourselves first initially. It seems selfish to put, your relationship with a spouse first. But by doing that, you have the chance to then set somebody else up. You've set that foundation. So there's a really cool one more slide here.
I know for me, when I hear that, put the mask on, and you get the mother's intuition, or, I never probably would have thought about it twice prior to having Dom and Cora. When I'm like, you sort of just go through that whole spiel, and now I'm like, I will not put that on before I put that. But it makes total sense. You can only take care of somebody else if you are taking care of yourself. So it's an interesting perspective in this sort of conversation.
It's really interesting. Can you
Yep,
see the slide? Yep.
you got it. I'll be
So
back.
Radical Candor is a book by Kim Scott, and it's an excellent book on teamwork and all of that. She came up with this diagram, and it's a really neat way. Initially, when our team started to grow at Choice, we had the goal of providing a great work environment so all of our team members continued to deliver a great experience to all of the wonderful patients that come through the door. One thing that tends to happen is similarly, there's a big circle theme on this episode today, but with these circles, we tend to take an outside in approach. If we just have the right culture, now this doesn't have to be workplace, this could be home culture, this could be team culture. So if you have the right culture, then people will perform their responsibilities. And then if everybody's performing their responsibilities, then relationships will do better. And then if relationships are better, then I'm happy. Then I'm good. The other way around, flip the you with your why, or flip the why with your you. If you can keep yourself, if you can set yourself up and clearly define what it is you want, what you feel like you need to do to get there, and you are taken care of, now you can do a better job supporting the people that you have relationships with. Is that family members? Are those coworkers? Are those teammates? And then if your relationships are strong, now people have an easier job completing their responsibilities. Dominic is cool taking the trash out. He's fine putting the pillows back on the couch as long as I have handled it the right way with him and our relationship is strong. And that's because I set my day up so I'm not thinking about work when I'm home. But now I can be more patient with him. I can ask him questions. I can talk through it. But if I try to go from the outside in, I'm like, Dominic, why didn't you put the pillows back on the couch? And I approach it from the outside in, it has the chance, it has the potential to go the wrong way. So her argument is if you take care of yourself and set yourself up, you can then have better relationships with other people. Those relationships now clearly set people up to perform their responsibilities. Again, is this at home where Aaron wants Joe to just clean the air fryer pan when he's done with it? And then the whole culture is set up better from there. So I'm going to pop off of the screen again, Air. So
Okay.
when I started looking that from the inside out, as opposed to I always looked from the outside in. I saw the culture that I wanted. I saw what the end game was, but I didn't follow it back to that curve. There's a really great quote that it's not the mountains we conquer, but it's ourselves. I was looking the quote up. So it's Edmund Hillary. He was like an explorer in the 50s, I guess. One of the first people to scale Mount Everest. There's some debate, I guess, on whether the quote actually came from him or not, but it's a really cool quote. Like, it is not that we got to the top of Mount Everest. It's that I figured it out to handle myself so that he ended up going up with somebody else so that we could get up together. It's that I set my day up so that I can be a better husband, so I can be a better coworker, so I can be, and then it starts to blossom from the inside out. It was a really kind of eye-opening experience, and it really lines up well with Simon Sinek's golden circle of if you can get your why correct, now your how is easier, and then the what just comes.
So there's a lot. It's great. I'm trying to get some of the information into the feed and everything with all of these resources. But also, I thought it was if it's okay to sort of jump in because we've
Yeah.
had a couple people posting. I thought it'd be cool to talk. Barb M mentioned, she's still working on her what post retirement, and I thought that was so interesting because I do feel that most people align their what's with their careers, and so if a career has ended graciously due to retirement, congratulations. How do you find that what? And I think it's a great point, Barb, because, we know you pretty well, but Joe, what's your take on that?
So I know Barb pretty well, and I
Right.
think that is really cool. And Barb is doing some really cool things right now with 518 masks. And her, Barb, hopefully you don't mind, Barb. So, but Barb is, so she was in the teaching profession, and I'm sure if you go and you take that further, why did you like teaching so much? And then when you get to retirement, how do you find outlets to still, whether it's to help people, whether it's to empower, whatever that might be. I think it's really cool that sometimes people naturally kind of go that way. Or the other thing is, it's a neat exercise as you're in a different stage of your life, as you're in a different period of your life. I think it's really cool to go back through that exercise and say, yeah, so what is my what? And then how am I going to do it? And why am I going to do it? I think those are, it's an evergreen exercise. You can keep repeating it.
I think one of the coolest thing is to do that. Even like when we take at Choice we do different strength finders tests, and so Joe and I have done them, and we've done a Colby assessment, and we've done these different personality test assessments. And what's interesting is some of the roots stay the same, but you'll notice a change just with different experiences that you've now had. Maybe you've answered some questions a little bit differently. Even for myself, I know initially now being a physical therapist for going on 11 years, I think things have changed to where I, of course, love treating patients. And when I am in the clinic doing that, I'm totally inspired to make my patients better and get them back to, living their life. But I've found this new why, which is actually creating new relationships with people in the community and reaching out to organizations and seeing how I can help and seeing different ways that I can sort of give back outside of just physical therapy. And 5 years ago, I don't think that would ever have been on my radar. So it's interesting that things do change. And Barb, I know more than anybody that in this retirement, you're doing a great job, and just pinpointing what your what is will be interesting.
Yeah, I think it's super cool, these exercises. I was trying to read through some of the other comments, and I think it was Kate. You know, sometimes sometimes people can see the inside out theory, but fear and insecurity, that word's above my pay grade. Maybe block the why.
Where are you looking?
Do you see Kate's comment?
No.
I think it's, so maybe, yeah, maybe if I'm getting it right, K law.
Oh, great. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Great,
yeah,
Kristen.
yeah. Yep. So do you know that word? I don't know that word. That's why I'm a physical therapist.
Oh,
Yeah.
patrilineal.
Yeah, that's really good. Um, so I think the inside out is a way. I think it's a lot. It can be a lot to, yes, you got the affirmation there. It's a different way to think about it, and certainly fear, like paralyzed. Yeah, paralysis. Yep. And so certainly fear and that insecurity is it's a huge thing. I mean, it's something that can be an exercise in and of itself, just going through this thought process and just kind of putting that to paper, putting some time into thinking through it, can help with some of that insecurity, can help with some of that fear. Because you could argue some people get to that point, and because of that insecurity, because of that fear, that might be what derails the motivation a little bit, because we don't want to press on through that. But maybe if we have that why, if we have that support system, if we're trying to take care of ourselves and we've got those relationships around us, now it's not just us in this game, but there's other people. We have a support system and we have some accountability to go off of. So I think that's a really great point. And it kind of a cool exercise to think through and try to tackle some of those things. The next part of this is, what's the difference between management and leadership? And when we're talking about on a day-to-day level, right, as an individual, we're not necessarily talking about an organization, but how do I lead my day? How do I lead my life versus how do I manage my day and manage my life? Some of it is good management is doing the right thing, doing things right. Man, I screwed it up. I had the whole thing. Good management is doing things right. Good leadership is doing the right thing. So there's this story, this group of people, they have a boat on the edge of the island. They are stuck in the middle of this rainforest and they've got to figure out how to get back to their boats. So there's one team member on the ground and they organize everybody. Take these blades, get in this line. This is how you chop and start to go. We're going to go in this direction. As that one person's doing this, there's another team member that just starts climbing a tree and they get all the way up to the top and they can look around. What they see when they get to the top of the tree line is the way the team is cutting is the complete opposite direction from where the boats are. So they call down, they're like, hey, we're going the wrong way. The team looks up and says, are you kidding me? Just be quiet. We're finally making some progress. We've got some momentum going. So good management without good leadership can be a lot like rearranging the chairs on the deck of the Titanic, right? So yes, we're doing it well, but we're not doing the right things, right? And so a lot of times what we do by going through these exercises is we can start to divide out, what is my end goal? How do I work backwards from there? And what are the things that I should be doing? What's the one thing that would make everything else either unimportant or insignificant? Like, I don't even need to do it if I just handle this one thing. And when we break it down like that, it can make sure that we're actually leading our life and we're not just managing it. Does that make sense? When I was growing up, I was the person that was completely against making my bed. It made no sense to me. Why would I make my bed if I'm just going to get in it at night and it's going to get messed up again, right? It's just more efficient. I'll just leave it like kind of messed up. There's a really great, and I should have looked the guy's name up. There's a really great, he was in the service for the United States. He has a TED Talk and a book about it now. And it's basically the why behind making your bed. And the reason you make your bed in the morning, according to this gentleman, is because you get a win to start the day. You get a chance to control something right out the start of the day, as opposed to snapping out of bed, throw my stuff on, run downstairs, get in the traffic. I'm a little late. And it's just, instead of being reactive about the day, you can be proactive. So if your why has something to do with leading others, being a better husband, being a better teammate, being a better whatever that might be, by getting that win to start your day, you're 1-0. You can check one box. You took control. You are leading your day, as opposed to waiting for whatever comes at you to be reactionary. You can take a proactive approach to it. So that's really, the difference between management and leadership. So doing things right, or taking the time and figuring out what are the right things that I actually should be doing.
We got a couple people who looked it up for you. We got
Ooh, I
General
like it.
McRaven. Yeah, some fact finders in the group. Thank you, guys.
Yes.
There we go. Make your bed, William McRaven. I know Jackie mentioned, and it being in the position that she is, ahead of a school, trying to go through managing versus leading, and hopefully this is helpful. But it's definite. I mean, hopefully you can learn from some of these things, but breaking it down and saying, what are just the right things to do rather than doing it right. Yeah, I think that's a nice little take home there. Oh, that book, it seems like a bunch of people have read it. I'll put that up in the feed or the ticker here.
It's a really popular, yeah, it was a great speech.
Oh, awesome. Thanks, Tom, for putting the speech in the feed. This is super helpful. All right. Want to go into the roles and goals? I thought this would be fun and interesting to go over.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. So this is taken from Stephen Covey, so the 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. And what they do is it blends with a lot of the stuff that we've already talked about, but it's defining your roles and then defining your goals for those roles. So it's literally sitting down and figuring out what are your whats. So I am an individual. That's the one most people skip, right? What do we immediately go to? I am a husband. I am a father. I am a son. I'm a brother. And the list goes on. Most people don't put themselves first, right? And so if we're trying to take that inside out approach, so I'm an individual. I'm a husband. I'm a father. And you go right down. However many roles you want to get to, and then you start to say, okay, as an individual, what's the one thing that I would like to work on that would make everything else easier or insignificant? And you choose your goal for that role. And then you go to your next role. As a husband, what's the one thing that would make everything else in my marriage easier or insignificant? Like I wouldn't have those issues anymore. Aaron might argue it is Joe washing the air fryer out.
That damn air fryer.
I know. You have bad dreams about that thing. Yep. As a parent, and so you can go right down the list. But going through that exercise, if you've defined your why, then you can start to say, okay, which of these roles, do I want to prioritize maybe for this week? And then what are my goals that I want to accomplish in this? I want to call my parents on my way home from work. I want to call my grandma and check in. When am I going to do that? And you can start to prioritize your day. So now your goal isn't just, to stay in touch with family more. Now it's in order for me to be a better son, brother, sister, mother, whatever it might be. All right, this is the step I'm going to take. I'm just going to call X person and talk to them. And that's how I'm going to keep that relationship strong. If as an individual, I want to lose 10 pounds. Okay, the one thing that's most important is me exercising 4 times this week. And I'm going to pick these days and these times, and then I'm going to do it. And I have my why to hold me accountable. And that again is the point where you've gotten yourself to goosebumps. Why do you want to lose 10 pounds? And you just ask yourself the questions until you feel like you got to that point where the hair stands up on your arms. Roles and goals. Go ahead, Air. What are some of your roles?
Well, I am an individual. I am a wife. I feel like, do you list out the daughter, sister, obviously?
Anything that's, yep. All of the roles that
My cousins obviously mean a lot to me. Aunt, I'm an aunt. I am a physical therapist. I'm an owner of a practice. I am a coach. I'm a member of Women United.
Perfect.
that can be daunting to then think of that I need to have a goal and a role for all those things.
But if you get it out of your head, then you've taken some of the ambiguity out of it, and you can start to say, maybe at this point, at this for this week, for this month, certain things take different priority, different precedence, depending on what's going on in a person's life. And you can start to move those things around and start to take some of that control back.
I think this is actually a great, I actually just felt my heart rate raise just right there. My whole sympathetic response is going up. I realized I didn't mention I was a mom. And that freaked me out. But also, I think some of the some stress or anxiety that you feel when you have so many roles. That's one struggle that I have is I find that I have several roles, which are great, and I choose to have some of them or others are chosen of me. But I think I'm sure if anybody can relate to this, when you have those roles and you have this not a fear of failure, but this sort of sense of being great at all of them, that can either you might lose motivation to work towards all of them. And I find that that's one of my constant struggles is trying to be the best role for all of those people or important things in my life.
That reminds me a lot of Erica's talk from episode 2 and the anxiety. And we talked about, the anxiety discussion. And we talked about, that one of my favorite quotes, from Lou Holtz, it's not the load that breaks you down, it's how you carry it. And a lot of these things, like you said, we can start to, so the other cool thing about that is you mentioned some of these things are inherent and they are roles that I have regardless. Some of them we have a choice and we can start to decide, and we can then have power over what do I want to say yes to? What do I want to say maybe next time because of XYZ? But if you've defined your why, now you look for opportunities to keep yourself balanced, to make sure that you can fulfill those roles and that you have those goals. And you try your best not to overextend yourself and go from there.
That is the goal.
That is the goal. That's right. That's right. All right. So the big take homes, right, is motivation is, it goes to a deep level. So if you can take it through the golden circle, Simon Sinek, it's not your what, it's not necessarily your how, but if you can get into your why and go for the goosebumps, you clearly define that, you write that down someplace where you see it regularly, that is what carries you through the difficult times. That is what, when the road gets tough, that's what keeps you going. Once you have your why, then you start to say, okay, I would probably go to the roles and goals from there, because the other stuff was kind of lead up to that. You start to define your roles. What are your roles? And then you start to say, which roles do I want to work? Maybe it's one role. You keep life the same and you choose one role to work on this week, this month, whatever it is. And you implement some of those atomic habits, 1% better. And you can start to ask yourself, for this role, what's the one thing that I could do to make everything else easier and significant? And then you put your plan in place. And then once you've got that, then you go to the next role and you start to slowly build it from there. That gives you a chance to lead your life, lead your day, as opposed to managing it and just waiting for the stuff to come at you and trying to react to it as it's coming. There's a really cool tool that we have. So it'll be a PDF format. Go ahead, Air. Do you want
to show it?
I don't know if I pulled it up actually. So it's called, it's a really neat tool. So we've got it in a PDF format, and it's basically a chart version of how to set up long and short-term goals. And it's based off of kind of the 5 key areas. So this is from a book called Scaling Up, and it's by the Gazelles organization. It's an awesome resource, really great way to just organize this, and you check in, every quarter, I think is the quickest frequency. So we can get that to you in a PDF format, but it has kind of the top 5 areas that most people have a tough time prioritizing, or really where they came with these top 5 areas was from a wealth advisor working with people towards the end of their life. And so this was the top areas when he was interviewing these people. He asked them, if you could go back 40 years, 50 years, what would you change? What areas would you like to improve? And these top 5 areas were the areas that these individuals had mentioned. And so it's a little bit of that kind of start with the end in mind, a little bit of what I was talking about with Dominic. We knew Dominic was coming, and I tried to put myself, having that career conversation with him one day, and trying to be able to encourage him to be able to go for whatever he feels like he wants to go for. And so it's putting yourself 25 years out from now, and in this domain of my life, what would I like that to look like? All right, so basically, what do I have to do at this stage, and it's a really neat tool to build off of your why, build off your roles and your goals.
I just put there, we'd love to give this to everybody just for listening to us tonight. So if you just comment in the comment section, hashtag I'm motivated. And Joe, do you not have it so we could show it to people? I know it's in your, you texted me it. I don't know if you can pull that up, but it's in the drive, the Google Drive. Or do you, just so we could show people what it looks like? Or do you
Yeah.
think it would be more of a hassle?
No, I don't think it's a hassle.
Because I think it's cool to break it down. But if any of you guys like lists and like to actually get it out of your head and get it onto paper, this is a super cool tool that you can use for that. So just comment that in the side sort of comment section there, and we will send it over to you via Facebook Messenger. That's what we've been able to do with previous PDFs that we have. Can help you collect your thoughts here.
I think Sherry had a really good point there in the comments. Do you see that there?
Coming up, Sherry. About being a homeschooling aunt?
Her last one. So making sure, a lot of this can sound overwhelming, and Sherry nailed it. Like, pick one role this week and pick one thing, right? One role that's going to make the difference. Sherry, homeschooling an aunt, and we're talking about the kindergarten, and teaching kindergarten is big at our house right now. And so I think that's perfect. Sherry, is pick one role and go from there. How's that, Eric? Can you see it? So this is it. So here's the 5 areas that wealth advisor, again from the book Scaling Up. So finance, fitness, friends, family, and faith, whatever form that may take. Those were the top 5 areas that people towards the end of life that this wealth advisor was working with, they consistently said that they wish they had, taken different steps, or if they could go back, they would change it a little bit. And so that is kind of how this planner is broken out. And so you start, up here, 10 to 25 years from now, what do my relationships look like? What types of achievements are most important for me? What type of daily rituals? So exercising, family vacations, XYZ. And then, like, what would maybe retirement goals or those types of things look like? Once you have that top area defined, then we just go down. So 1 year from now, what does that look like? What does this look like? What does this look like? What does this look like? And then you say, in the next 90 days, in the next quarter, what do I want to start doing? And then conversely, what do I want to stop doing? And then you throw the date up there, and you put it in a place where you can see it regularly, and take a look. And then you check in on it and see where you're at and adjust the game plan. I think the biggest thing is trying not, sometimes it can be overwhelming if you're looking at that end point, but really the goal is, how can I stay consistent, and how can I build that momentum, and how can I, like we've been talking about, how can I get 1% better?
Awesome, Joe. I mean, so super helpful to help us navigating our whys and thinking a little bit more deeply there. What's the coolest thing about all this is now all week long we get to talk to either some of our patients who are listening, or people who email us after, or family or friends who then they just tell us what they're doing, or what they now have been putting thought processes to. So as we said in the beginning, it looks like 8 o'clock is a pretty good time. So we're not finished finishing up at 9 o'clock or at 10 o'clock if we start a little bit later. So thank you for your feedback there, and any other topics that you've been thinking about or that you've sort of wanted to learn more about, because we certainly can look up different people who are experts in this field. So please leave us a message if there's something that you really want us to talk about. Otherwise, we'll just keep surprising you with some more content that we have. And thank you for participating. For us, Joe and I talk to each other all day long when we're home on weekends, but to have this platform to be able to talk with you guys and hear that, what you're going through and how it's similar to Joe and I, it's just really cool to just feel, just closer to our whole community. So thank you so much for watching and sort of tuning in.
Yeah, and happy Sunday, everybody.
Have a great week coming up, and make sure you choose to be 1% better every day. Have a good night.